G'day and welcome to another video with Better Pics. Hope this finds you all well. Today I wanted to create a video around working with video in Adobe Lightroom. So as many of you would probably know, for a while now you have been able to work with video in Lightroom. And while it does offer some great features, there's a few things to talk about when considering using Lightroom for video editing. Now, I will preface this video with a quick discussion around the advantages and disadvantages of using Lightroom, and we're going to see some of those today. Actually, we're going to see all of those today. So some of the advantages, as I mentioned, is that it's a very simple process of working with video. Certainly a lot simpler than the likes of Adobe Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve. And while those programs are definitely going to offer a lot more flexibility, it also comes with a level of complexity and a learning process to be able to work with videos within that space. So the simplicity of Lightroom really is probably its biggest benefit. There is quite a bit of flexibility with color grading or adjusting colors within your footage, and while you can't do that directly to the footage, there is a bit of a workaround that I'll show today so that you're able to do that. And the other big advantage is that Lightroom is a very popular platform for photographers, and if you're a photographer that uses Lightroom, it's a platform that you're already going to be familiar with, so there's not going to be as big a learning curve as if you were to use something like Premiere Pro in comparison. So that familiarity will definitely help you to be on your way to editing some video. Now, some of the disadvantages, or in fact the major disadvantage with working with video within Lightroom, is that it is quite simple. It doesn't have anywhere near the number of options that you will find in a dedicated editing platform. So the lack of control that you have during times like export, you don't have any control over the frames per second, the resolution, or you do to a certain extent the resolution, but mostly the data rates. You don't have control over changing those data rates, which as it's exactly the same with photos, you want to have control over how much data is actually dedicated to that photo, how much compression is going on. So there's some considerations there definitely worth thinking about if you are going to use Lightroom for editing videos. However, as I mentioned earlier, that simplicity allows you to get into editing videos quickly without that steep learning curve that you'll often see with a platform such as Premiere Pro. So some advantages and disadvantages there, but definitely worth considering. Alright, so here we are in Lightroom. You can see that I am in my import window, and I've got 6 clips there that we can import, and we're in fact only going to select 3. I'm going to uncheck all, and I'm going to check that one, or those 2, and that third one. There we go. So we've got 3 clips there that we're going to import. So the import process is exactly the same. Select the video files that you would like to import. That may be all of them or just some of them, as I've done here. Now, just in the library module, you can see that we have quite a bit of information there. So the videos are appearing as they would with small thumbnails. You can see that there's a time there in the bottom left hand corner. So 58 seconds, 24 seconds, 1 minute and 13 seconds, and that's literally just telling you how long the videos are. You can also see down the bottom here that we have different thumbnails as well, as we would expect to see in the normal process of importing photographs and looking at them in the library module. If you hover over your videos as well and just move your mouse or your stylus pen left to right, you can see that you're able to scrub through those videos as well, just to give you an idea of what's actually in them. You can see that these are quite standard videos. They're just fixed on a tripod. So, but yeah, hovering over those thumbnails, moving back and forward, you can scrub through those videos, which is a great feature. All right, so if you want to have a look at the video in a larger frame, if you double click, you can see that there's a play button down the bottom there, and you're able to watch your video. And it's obviously playing a bit of sound there as well that was originally captured. You can also use your spacebar as a shortcut for playing and stopping that video. So that's a great way to, I guess, look at your video in a larger view, exactly the same as you would with photos. Alright, so if we look at this little toolbar down at the bottom when we've got an enlarged version of the video file, you can see we've got that play button there so that we can start and stop. You can see we've also got a little scrub button there as well that we can click and drag along and look at different parts of the video file. If we go to the other end, we can see a little wheel there that if we click on, it enlarges this little toolbox, and we're able to see every frame of the actual video. And as we're playing it, you can see that we have like a little, I guess, a miniature timeline there where it plays along, and we see where the video is up to. So we can just pause there as well. Now, one of the advantages with expanding that view down the bottom there is that you can set what's called your in and out points. So say, for example, with this video, it's 58 seconds long, but say, for example, if we only want to use 20 seconds of it, we can click and drag on the left and right hand side, and we can set our in and out points. And you can see that the length of the clip is actually updated on the bottom left hand thumbnail there, down to 20 seconds or 21 seconds. Let's just take that down to 20. 16, there we go, 20 seconds. So that's a way to trim, or top and tail as I like to call it. So a way to trim the beginning and end of the video clip and only have a section specifically available to use. So that's really handy. What we also have next to that little wheel is, if we click on that one, we've got two options, capture frame and set poster frame. Capture frame is the one that's probably the most important, and what that does is basically take a still from the video, and it takes that still at the resolution that the original video was captured in. So this one is 3840 pixels by 2160 pixels. So if we capture that frame, we now have a frame captured at that particular point in the video, which is really handy and worth being aware of, because we're actually going to use that frame in a little bit when we show you some more features within Lightroom. So that's a great way too if you want to capture a still. Now obviously a still won't be anywhere near the quality or have the editing flexibility that you would normally have with a RAW or a digital negative file, but it's certainly a good way to capture a frame if you have a particularly nice looking piece of footage and you want to capture a frame. And if capturing in 4K, then it will certainly be at a higher resolution as well, giving you some capacity to print that a little bit bigger while retaining clarity. Alright, so if we go down to the location where these files are stored, you can see that that still has automatically been imported. Now, this is particularly important because when we want to come to our color correction or adjustments, or color grading as it's often referred to, which is giving video or footage a particular look, if we select our video files and we go to develop, you can see that it comes up with a message saying video is not supported. So if we go back to our library and we click on the still frame that we've extracted out of that video and go to develop, you can see that it does allow us to make color and or go into the develop module to make those adjustments. So basically what this means is we need to extract a frame from the video that we wish to color grade, adjust the color of an exposure and whatever other settings we would like to make. I'm going to make some extreme adjustments in this case just so you can absolutely see the difference. We basically make the color adjustments to the still frame that we've extracted from the video. If we go back to our library module, you can see we have the still that we've just made those adjustments, plus the video clip, and you can see that the colors are quite different between the still and the video clip. So the still, obviously we've made those color adjustments. Now if we select the still and then select the video clip, we can then click on sync settings. Now in this case I'm going to check all, even though we didn't use all, but just for demonstration purposes, and I'm going to hit synchronize, and you can see that those settings are being pasted across to the video clip, and now our video clip matches the color of the still that we just made the color adjustments for, and that plays as it did beforehand. So while you can't directly open video clips within the develop module of Lightroom, there is a workaround to be able to still have that same level of flexibility and control over the color of your video clips within Lightroom. So that's a great way to do it. It also means that you get a bonus still frame as well, which is not a bad thing. Now, of course, if you don't want to keep that still frame, you can delete it or remove it. However, it does, as I said, allow you to have that flexibility to color grade and adjust the color of your video clip. Alright, so we could go ahead and do exactly the same for the other two images. For the sake of time and demonstration, I'm not going to show that today, but you can see that that is definitely possible and allows us to have that control over the color and contrast and the look of our footage. Now keep in mind that this doesn't mean that you have the full flexibility of raw editing within your footage. It is the equivalent of a JPEG, I guess, for want of better description. So there will be some limitations about how much work you can actually do to that footage. So yeah, just keep that in mind. You won't have that flexibility that you normally have with raw or digital negative files. All right, so once we have created our video clip with all of our changes, what we want to do now is export. So let's just go back to grid view, and I'm going to select that clip, and all we need to do is go down to export. All right, so super simple. It's basically exactly the same process as if you're exporting a still, except we're going to go to our video option. All right, so we have only selected one clip, and you'll see here that you have a couple of options, or a few options with video format. The two that you want to check out is H.264, and that's the most popular file format that you normally see uploaded to social media or YouTube or those sort of platforms. Also used in presentations, in PowerPoints and Word and that sort of thing. So if we select H.264, you can see that there's a few options with quality. So max, which as it says, as close to the source as possible. High quality but with a possible reduction in video bitrate. Medium, it does drop the resolution to 1280 by 720. Suitable for web sharing and high-end tablets. And low, suitable for mobile devices, and it goes back to standard definition, 480 by 270. Alright, if we go up to max, now you can see that it's matching the frame rate, and the original source footage is actually Ultra HD 3840 by 2160, as I mentioned earlier. But even with max quality, it's going to reduce the resolution to 1920 by 1080. Now, if we want to keep it as original, then we want to go to the original unedited file. As you can see there now, it will export it at those resolutions. So that's a good thing. All right, I'm not going to export it for the sake of demonstration, because one of the things that I found with exporting video out of Lightroom is it does take a significantly longer amount of time than what it does out of normal video editing software. So that is, I guess, one of the disadvantages that you will find with working with video in Lightroom. However, it's, still there's a lot of advantages and reasons worth considering using it. All right, so I'm just going to cancel that. So if we go back into our library module, I'm just going to remove this one. Let's just remove that photo. Yes, I want to remove it. So we now have our 3 video clips left over. Now, if I select all 3, there's another way that we can actually export video out of Lightroom if we wanted to make a video combined of these 3 clips. Now, if we select all 3, as I said, and we go up to slideshow, you can see now we have the option to export video. Now, what you can actually do is still incorporate stills or a logo or something that you might have created in Photoshop or some other design software by including that in the original layout that you've got. So for example, you can see the order that I've got the 3 videos here. If you put an opening slide and an ending slide, then that would be the beginning and end. In this case, we've only got 3 videos, but for the purposes of the demonstration, I'm sure you understand what I mean. So as I said, if you select all 3, head up to slideshow and then export video, you can see that it comes up with this dialog box asking us to select a destination for this particular video. Now, in this case, we don't have as many options as we did on the normal export, which was a video by video or individual files. You can see that it's only giving me the option to save it as a .mp4, and I've got 4 different presets that I can choose from. So 1080, which is a 16:9 aspect ratio, which is the same aspect ratio of the original video. 720, which is also 16:9. 640 by 480, which is a 4:3 aspect ratio, so there would be some cropping there. And then the lowest one, 480 by 270, which is back to 16:9. Now, if we click on 1080 16:9 and save, then it will export that video out for us. Now, it does take quite a bit of time. As I said with the previous example or method of exporting, it is quite a bit longer than a dedicated video editing software or application. So that's a disadvantage, exactly the same. And because we've got 3 video clips, or you may have more video clips, I would expect it to take longer again. Now, I did a test earlier and it was significantly longer. So the export process in Premiere Pro, I would estimate to have been about a minute. This took about 8 minutes, so it was quite a bit longer. Now, that might be different depending on the resolution of footage that you're working with, the amount of color adjustment you've made, the file format, as well as obviously your computer's specs and how powerful it is. So that's worth considering. Again, I won't export it at the moment as this is just for demonstration, but you can see that you can choose multiple clips, go into slideshow and export a video so that you have a video with multiple clips included. So as you can see, and as I mentioned earlier, there are many advantages to using Lightroom for working with video. And I think the familiarity and the simplicity of Lightroom is a real advantage when it comes to working with video. For those of you who are already using Lightroom, this isn't going to be a big learning curve. It's a fairly straightforward process and easy steps to now start working with video. Certainly in comparison to the learning curve for what you would experience in using Premiere Pro. Obviously, as I mentioned, there's disadvantages as well. So the lack of control on export and the lack of control for doing other work with the footage that you would see in a dedicated editing platform for video is significant. But in my opinion, it's a great way to be introduced to video editing. It is a great way to experiment and start playing with video with your cameras and the editing process within Lightroom. Hope you've enjoyed this video. As with any option for editing photos or video, there are advantages and disadvantages. My recommendation would definitely be to have a go at creating some videos out of Lightroom, see how you go, and hopefully you're happy with the results. Hope you've enjoyed this video and hope it's been helpful. As always, any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.